Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of History After Hours. My name is Kevin Pumphrey, and with me, like usual, is Mr. Ron Franklin and Mr. Jeremy Nixon. We are three teachers at Lakeside High School in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and we are recording this on April 27th, 2022. And in this episode, we talk quite a bit about the Russia-Ukraine situation and how that is evolving. We get into a little bit of politics, and then we end on senior pranks. Why not? So, with all that being said, we hope you enjoy this podcast. Okay, this is History After Hours. It is Wednesday, April 27th, 2022.
Happy Holocaust Remembrance Day.
Oh, is that today?
It was this evening, yeah.
This evening?
Yeah. I guess it's already commenced since Israel's way across the water.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I guess that is a remembrance. It's hard to say happy, right?
Yeah, that's not the right term. I would.
Yeah. Happy Memorial Day is always
Memorial Day.
What do you say? You don't say happy, you just say...
Hey, yeah, what?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking about it now. God. I don't know what you would say.
What's the appropriate happy? No. Hey, did you remember?
Yeah.
Congratulations, Memorial Day. No, that's not it. I bet people are screaming right now at us. They know.
There's got to be something that's appropriate because all those were inappropriate. Welcome to. No, that's. I'm not being.
You can always say funny. Like in remembrance of Memorial Day, but when it has remembrance in the title, that kind of gets you.
But we do Memorial Day though. I mean,
yeah,
and we
say happy
Memorial Day, and that's all about soldiers who died in foreign wars, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's also inappropriate apparently.
Yeah. Well, now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. So I've learned something today. Okay. Anyway, today is, by the way, Holocaust Memorial Day.
There we go.
That's where we'll go.
In honor of.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yep.
Mr. Franklin.
Speaking of genocide, let's talk about Ukraine.
Yeah, before the podcast, you were trying to inform us on all the hell that's breaking loose right now. So, get us up to speed here.
Yeah, so this is my segment called How Much More Effed Up Can It Be? So, in just within the past couple of days, and then today, Germany, which has spent its entire existence post-World War, I mean, like Germany, not East Germany, but West Germany, now complete Germany, has spent its time sort of making up for all of the Nazi crap, you know. They worked double time to tap down nationalism. You couldn't buy copies of Mein Kampf. You can't do the salute. You deny the Holocaust, they'll send you to prison. They have... I just recently learned how deep this went concerning because they've been real hesitant to avoid Russian sanctions, based on what's happening in Ukraine. And I was curious about that because they're a big EU. I mean, they're like one of the strongest countries in Europe, if not the strongest economy. Why aren't you? And I know that they get a lot of their gas and oil from Russia, and so I thought, well, maybe that was it. But what I found out was that it's also based in part on their trying to make up for the fact that the Nazis did invade the Soviet Union, now Russia, during World War II, and they've been trying to make amends for that. And this was something else I thought was interesting. When the Soviet Union was falling apart and our president was Ronald Reagan, even though he came and gave the big tear down this wall speech and everybody applauded, apparently the Germans saw him as more of a gunslinging cowboy type who was reckless and actually saw Mikhail Gorbachev as this level-headed, responsible reformer who they then thought better of than they thought of us. So I didn't, and I never realized that. So you've had that holdover as well. Oh, Russia's not the bad guy. Russia's not the bad guy. Russia's not the bad guy for decades and decades now. And suddenly Russia's the freaking bad guy. And now they're having to come to terms with that, like politically in the House. How do we grasp this new reality, which was something that they should have seen brewing anyway, but they've just sort of ignored it, I guess. So, but now, so my point that all that led to was that they have decided now to not only sanction Russia heavily and end their reliance on Russian oil and gas by the end of the year, they're also going to send in tanks, which is a huge deal. They're going to send tanks to Ukraine to help them fight against the Russian aggression. Poland and Bulgaria today announced that they are not going to cooperate with Russia, and they're not going to pay for the gas and oil that they're getting with the Russian ruble that Vladimir Putin wants them to do. And then what was the other thing? One of the British political, I guess, minister, I forgot who it was, said today that NATO and Western alliances, just in general, I suppose, needs to strongly consider. No, I think she said needs to send warplanes into the conflict, which is definitely a stronger language than we've heard. And then today there were some explosions in the eastern part of Moldova, which has been a separatist sort of infighting thing going on for years now. And Russia's blaming Ukraine. Ukraine is blaming Russia, but this was the same sort of crap that we saw with their excuse to invade Ukraine to begin with. Oh, we have to protect Russian-speaking people who do live in that area, and so this may be the thing that opens up that next corridor down in that southern part. They may turn on Odessa now, and if they can take that territory and maybe take Moldova themselves, which is was part of the old Soviet Union. And you looked up a while ago, Nixon, that they have a neutrality contract.
They do,
they're not
yeah.
part of NATO, so they might be screwed in this thing as well. I mean, it has the potential to expand. And then lastly, not to try to dominate the conversation, but then lastly, today President Putin, it wasn't really veiled, it was pretty direct, threatening World War III. This will escalate beyond your wildest dreams. Don't mess with me is kind of what he said. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's today.
Well,
let's unpack all that, shall we?
Let's back up to the German tanks thing, because that raised my eyebrows. First of all, what prompted them to send German tanks? And number two, are these German tanks going to be driven and occupied by German soldiers?
No, I don't think so. But
they're
still,
sending tanks.
But we've been real hesitant. All the NATO countries have been hesitant to send big things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they've been asking for a no-fly zone, and we said no. They've been asking for. I mean, Poland was like, "Hey, we're going to give you these old Soviet MiG fighter jets," and we were like, "No, you're not going to do that." Partly because we were going to have to deliver them, but whatever. But that was seen like we've been given anti-tank, things and bazookas and anti-aircraft. No, I don't know about anti-aircraft, but anyway, so
we did some
munitions and that kind of
anti-aircraft
stuff, right? Lend-lease.
The largest thing we've done is helicopters, and that was just approved recently.
Oh, we did do helicopters?
Yeah, that's in the next. It's in the next package that's going through.
Yeah,
but that's the biggest thing we've done.
But every time, but now everybody's saying it. Like France is more on board with that, and Germany's more on board with that. And I said the stuff from England today. Poland's already been saying it. Like this has the possibility of we could look back on this in years and go, wow, that was a pivotal moment. I mean, it could be, but yeah, no, not German soldiers, but definitely those tanks, which is heavy artillery and firepower and mechanisms.
It seems like when this first occurred, every country was very hesitant to help Ukraine, and it seemed like, especially we did that talk in front of the kids at one point. We kind of had said, well, we might have to sacrifice Ukraine to the Russians just to make sure that there's no big, but it seems like that now has went away, and we're slowly, steadily supporting the Ukrainians, which of course Putin, I don't think he has any intentions of stopping if we're escalating. I don't know what, I mean, I think
our very first conversation, we talked about how we felt, I think we all agreed that we felt, well, I don't know if I'm not sure you were.
I don't think I was on
anyway.
that.
But we've talked about it since that they were trying to hammer that eastern side and take that because that's where the separatist action's been going on since 2014. But then I hadn't even considered going all the way across the south and like controlling that Black Sea and making Ukraine landlocked. And then just recently have I seen the Moldova thing on my radar? Going, oh my God, it could actually. I can envision that happening. So what do you think? You think the possibility is that that's his ultimate end game to secure the South? I think he said that recently.
He did, or one of his ministers did. I mean,
that Sergei Lavrov guy, he's been on the circuit
everywhere,
lot, predicting World War III if we don't careful. I mean, he's been saying that directly. Putin hasn't said those words.
Yeah, he just wants to say it'll be beyond your. But I think about a week ago they said that their goal was to secure the southern portion of Ukraine and the ports along the sea. So that would inculd.
You think they would if they could have toppled Zelensky, if they could have taken Kiev, then I think they would have. But it didn't happen that way. Who sent me the thing? Apparently Belarus, which is really tight with Russia. Apparently some of the people in the country, did you see
The
that?
railroad,
Sabotaged, was that you?
Yeah, that was me, yeah.
Sabotaged some of the Russian troop stuff entry on
The
the
railroad
railways.
workers,
Some of the
yeah.
railway workers sabotaged that. So they're not as fully on board as their government seems to act like they are.
Does Russia have like an ally in this? I mean, like a real deal ally?
I thought it was
I thought it was
Belarus.
Belarus, and then I saw that reporting, and then the conductors,
The
and
government for sure.
Yeah, the government for sure, but not. It doesn't sound like the people are all on board, and that was news to me when I read that article. I was like, this is big, because when you've got that was their main pathway into the northern part of the country through Belarus,
Right, yeah.
and
But then if they were saboteurs, then
Right.
that makes sense why they didn't have the armaments they needed to take Kiev.
right, and that's a significant development, because I mean that's a game changer. If Kiev falls early, or like they predicted within 2 or 3 days, we're 2 months out.
I didn't think they'd last. I really didn't.
I honestly didn't either, and I think to what Kevin was saying a minute ago, it seems like we're backing Ukraine more, and I think it's because they have held out this long. We're like, yeah, maybe we should.
Like in our revolution when the French kind of held to see
Yeah.
if we were actually going to do something, and then they backed us. I
Maybe.
think it's similar.
Yeah, you have to prove that you can have a chance. And you definitely don't want to spark a bigger war. I mean, if Ukraine was going to fall in less than a week, there's no need in us going full tilt to just spark a huge international conflict. But since they've held out now for months, that's it, and you have to just assume that Russia is getting weaker. I mean, especially if the international community, no one's really backing them, as long as China stays out of it and people like that. You would assume that the problem is Putin not wanting to, be embarrassed here. I don't know what makes him stop.
Is there something that we can go, okay, here's the strategy, here's the game plan to let him save face to a certain degree and yet stop this?
That's going to be that'll be the negotiations to give him something that will seem like he won. We got to give him a win.
That and the
at
fact that
end
they
of this.
lost that warship here recently, like that was what was the name? Of that
Yes,
thing?
I can't remember
The Pride of the Fleet or some crap, and then the Ukrainians smacked it with some missiles and it sank.
We
That
have to give
embarrassed
him
him.
room to be able to tell his people that we accomplished our mission. We did what we were supposed to do. We got to give him that ability, that out, because if we don't, he's not going to ever stop.
He's had some oligarchs turn on him, although they're not in the country. He's got some boys. I think there was one last week or so, or I don't remember, who I think is in Britain, and this guy was like, "Hey, like this isn't going to work," and sort of called on the Russian people themselves to not fall for it.
I think that was Abramov, or however you pronounce his name. I don't know. He's kind of like an.
Is that the
Expat
cyclist
almost.
guy? Is that the guy that owns the?
He owns
team or
he owns
whatever?
the soccer. Yeah, he owns
It's
Chelsea.
soccer,
Yeah.
Right. That's the guy.
Yeah.
He
Roman.
was pretty blunt. Some of the other guys have been slightly critical. He
Well-
was like, "No, like you're trash."
He's got a little bit of a reason to be blunt too, because
Has he
the
been-
UK
had some stuff
froze
his assets?
all of his assets. The soccer team can't sell merchandise. They can't sell tickets. They can play, but I mean it's hit him in his
I got you.
pocketbook. So he's
And
got a
you're,
reason
and you're
to.
slightly beyond the reach, I would assume, at this
Yeah.
point too, of retribution.
I mean, I don't know that you'd ever feel safe from Putin,
Yeah.
but UK is.
But it seems like with more gear and more equipment going into the Ukraine, if every day you extend this, it seems like the Russian people will get hit worse and worse. And you hope that enough Russian people will eventually be able to make some noise on their own to get it out of this mess. Maybe they put enough pressure on Putin where if he doesn't have public support at all, and especially if the military starts to go AWOL and, I don't know, maybe that's the thing, is you stretch this thing out long enough, he has no choice but to pull out. But I really think an egomaniac like him, I think we've got to figure out a way to give him a win to his people, unless you're talking about regime change, which is scary to me because that's never went well in recent history when we try to
do you think it's just saber rattling when they keep bringing up the fact that, remember, we've got nukes?
Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously it's true.
At one time, I thought it was just that bluff and bluster, and but now I'm like, boy, the longer this goes on, I don't know. I mean, I'm still really optimistic that this will resolve itself without that, because how do you come back from that? Once you go there to any degree, tactical nukes or not, I just don't know how you back up. They're already an international pariah. Like you just, and I'm not talking about full scale global thermonuclear war. I'm not talking about life ending stuff, but just I'm a child of the Cold War. I remember Red Dawn and all that jazz, and that's always been in the back of my mind that could be a possibility. Like, good God, like let's not let it go there for sure.
Yeah, the scariest thing is if you put him in a corner where he has no outs. It seems like that would be the time he might be constructing
unless you've got a united coalition,
now.
unless you've got everybody on board saying no, like you're right. Even China would have to jump in at that.
Maybe. Yeah, I think China and India. India is buying.
India
Is buying so much cheap oil from Russia because no one else is. They're getting it. Last I saw, in the conversion, about $35 a barrel, which is insanely cheap right now.
Is it over?
It's over 100. Last I checked. It may not be now, but I mean, India and China have to both cut those ties.
Yeah. Well, it's went on way longer than any of us predicted at the first.
Yep.
And who knows?
Is Zelensky the man of the year?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really kind of interesting, that guy, stand-up comedian, an actor who played the Ukrainian president, then became the Ukrainian president, and then against all odds was able to galvanize his people and an international community behind him. I mean, I was kind of scared of him because he is such a good, sympathetic figure that I thought it might provoke a world war. Like, if you get too much sympathy for him, you could see how people would want to help so much that we might be doing things against our own interest.
You've seen the photos of his age progression within the last 2 months?
Oh, no.
Yeah,
that guy's aged 30 years in the past 2 months.
Yes.
Yep. He's got some guts, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
No, me neither.
I can't imagine. Here's the other thing. Speaking of Zelensky, did you see the clip that you sent this out? Did you see the clip of Trump when he was still president talking to Zelensky saying, "Oh, I really feel that you and Putin could be really good friends if you just work harder."
If you just work things out. You have the ability. I'd like to see that happen in 2019. And Zelensky's just like not making eye contact, looking down, I'm not going to. No,
I will not engage in this conversation. Eve knew even then that it was there must have been something else brewing. Otherwise, why would Trump even bring that up? And why would that look be on Zelensky's face?
Yeah.
Maybe he took the job, and day one they're like, okay, well, here's the real thing. You're in jeopardy. Day one,
Right,
he's known that since day one, possibly.
Yeah, that's
possibly.
True. Yeah, you just never know what behind closed doors what people are saying. He might have known all along that this was coming, and he was trying to get ready for it.
Okay, so that leads me to think about us, because I'm not trying to be, Americentric, but at the same time, we have to consider how this is affecting us and could potentially affect us in the future if something does happen and escalate. But in the meantime, I hear all these people. Listen, I'm not happy about paying more for stuff.
Yeah.
I am not happy about the increased cost of living. I'm not happy about the fact that Saudi Arabia and the rest of the OPEC boys won't play ball and help bring down. They could drop oil prices today. If they decided
in
to
an
pump
instant.
things up. They're just not going to do that. Let's put all this in perspective. Somebody was complaining the other day about the 40-year high for inflation, but I haven't heard anybody mention the fact that it's also a 50-year record high for corporate profits. Mm-hmm. Let's see how we couple those two things together. Y'all can talk about that. Viewership, listenership, people. But also, my wife said something the other day that I thought was really, because we had just gone to the store and we bought 3 bags of stuff and it was $100 and something. And I'm like, golly. And she said, well, look, I mean, at least we're not having to write our information on the back of our child with Sharpies in case something happens to us and somebody has to find the kid and do something with him. I mean, we're not there. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stop bitching about stuff because my little problems, I'm going to pay more for stuff. That cramps my lifestyle. That's true. I'm inconvenienced. But I'm not worried about the health and safety of my children or whether I'm going to be here tomorrow. But, let's just put everything in perspective and then calm down a little bit and see if we can have some rational discussion.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Inflation it's record high. But like you said, if you look at the profit breakdown of Exxon, Shell, name any oil, and it's in the billions, it's up.
All of them sitting before Congress going, well, we're not really milking it. Well,
yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, and look, that's capitalism by design.
Right? Yeah, I mean,
it's capitalism by design.
To profit. That's true. However, aren't there anti-gouging laws somewhere?
Sure. Yeah. Well, the problem with that is they're mostly state by state, and herein we have. Arkansas's law, I'll just start there. Like Arkansas, if the governor declares a state of emergency, there are lists of goods that you cannot raise the price on, goods and services, gas being one of them. I remember very vividly 9/11 and the people who were price gouging at the gas station and being prosecuted. That said, that is Arkansas, and we've got 50 states and multiple territories. We don't have a uniform code or federal law that is similar. So it's
why
piecemeal.
Not? Just because they've just ever taken the jurisdiction away from the states?
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Would it be a bigger hassle if they did?
Well, it would be a political fight. I mean, there's going to be a political fight.
But in an emergency situation,
sure.
Like I know a lot of republics historically who have had that crisis management out. Like, no, we're at least for this moment, and I'm assuming that's what you're talking about,
right?
Maybe not permanently, but we have a clause that says we could do this in these.
And
times.
we have done it,
sure.
times.
Yeah, and maybe
would it take outright war with us for the government to
probably
say, no,
yeah, I think there would probably, that's what I was about to say. There is probably an antiquated law that says in times of war or declared national emergencies or use of authorization of force, whatever we call it now, not war.
Yeah, FDR did it and Nixon did it as well.
Right. So I mean, I'm sure
war in both cases.
But in just our normal day-to-day code, we don't have it unless there's something triggering it, so I guess it is going to take something bigger.
Well, like I said, I don't like paying more for stuff. However, I go back to what I said a while ago. It could be horrendously worse. Like we're not facing genocidal conditions.
So I think about the last time that we had this inflation and stagnant economy in the 70s. The answer to that, Reagan thought, was to deregulate and let the rich get richer and the corporations roll.
Right.
And now, incidentally, we did have a tech boom during the 80s. The computer revolution, which definitely helped pull us out to some degree of that. I don't see that on the horizon. And since the 80s, we've had a gap between the wealth gap has been increasing ever since the 1980s. That is a problem we have to solve eventually. That can't go on indefinitely. You can't have the top 10% making more and more every year while more people are falling below the poverty line. Now, but to your point, you compare our poverty line to other countries, and it's not that bad.
Not yet.
We have poverty that they have cell phones. It's not. They're not impoverished like some countries.
And again, I'm not trying to be doom and gloom, but you're right. Like that is a serious problem that will have to be rectified sooner or later. I don't know if it'll be in my lifetime or not.
But if you look at the revolutions that have occurred in history, we're history teachers. The gap between the rich and the poor, whether it's the French Revolution or Russian Revolution or wherever.
American Revolution.
When you have the rich that have decided, that they're too big to fail, kind of thing, and the masses are starving or hurting, and this inflation just makes all that worse. I mean, just think about like the prices for us, make it more inconvenient, but now there's people making a choice how to put food on the table instead of.
So you said state by state, though people could do. Yeah. So are there states that are considering doing something that you know of?
Not that I know of, but I was double checking and just to make sure. But yeah, in our normal, absent a declaration of war or anything like that, there is no national price gouging statute. There's no, so it is piecemeal state by state, and that's what I thought. I just wanted to double check myself because it's been a minute. But the only thing that
if there was a governor that stepped up, they would be instantly criticized
of
by
course.
the others. By what are you, a socialist?
Yeah, essentially. And then
What are you, a commie? Let's be strong like Russia. They don't tolerate that kind of shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got people saying that. I mean, literally, you've got people. You've got people advocating for next election for Putin or Biden. Who would you vote for? And these people are saying Putin.
How can people be that dense? And I know that when you see snippets like that, it's anecdotal.
Yeah, of course it is.
But at the same time, they do represent some sort of percentage within inside the country, and that's freaking scary.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's coming from the side that used to be so anti-communist.
I know,
anti-Russian.
Right? Yes, that was my point.
We've all got flipped. It's weird. The freedom of
bizarre
speech
world.
people have swapped sides, and the pro-communist people have swapped sides. I don't know what's next. It's hard to. Do y'all find it difficult in class now to talk about politics? And you talk about it more than I do, but you have to couch everything in exceptions, and it's not like it has been for 30 years. It has changed to the point where labels now, it's hard to even label things.
I had a kid a couple years ago in the height of the Trump stuff that. I mean, all I was doing was reporting on what the president was actually doing. I was running right down the middle. I wasn't criticizing. I was just explaining what he was actually doing. Step by step, procedural. Anybody could look it up. There was no hint of partisanship in anything I was saying. And a kid later came on and goes, well, after class, he goes, I really wish that you wouldn't be so critical of Trump. I was like, I was not being. I mean, he thought I was making that stuff up. I'm like, you can fact check every single thing that I did, and I did. But I have criticized because I do a list of presidents. Here's what this president was dealing with, and here's what decisions they made, and here's some of the ramifications. And I do pros and cons, and I did the same thing with Trump. But all the kid heard was the negative, because they've been pushing that narrative of nobody treats the president fairly. He'd been pushing it too since he ran. But that kid had swallowed that information, and all he heard. And when I did give Trump credit for something, he just didn't even, that pinged off his head apparently. I can't believe you'd be criticizing him all the time. I wish you wouldn't be so critical. Well, I wasn't. I was just reporting true facts, as opposed to the...
Yeah, I was about to say, it's sad that you have to say true facts now. Yeah.
Well, the thing is like people that love Trump now, it's more of a personality thing. It's more about getting the left or the libs.
Well, and that's where I was going with that, is that true conservatives... Yeah. You bring up Reagan-style conservatives. Those are the conservatives I grew up with.
And by the way, the Republicans...
where are they?
Most of the Republicans that like Trump now didn't like him at first. I mean, my parents are true conservatives, and every time he was on the screen, I'll get this bozo off the screen. We want Romney. We want Cruz. We want a normal... But then, of course, it was him versus Hillary. And so they had to pick their side. And it was just such a weird thing to see all these Reagan Republicans come over to the side of Trump. And then now we're in a position where Trump rules the party, and it's politically suicide to go against him.
Do you remember, maybe you guys were too young to remember, but do you remember there was a controversy about Reagan, whether he was moral enough to be president because he was divorced and remarried?
Oh, yeah. No,
apparently we've let that go.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, we've let a lot go.
The morality aspect.
We've let a lot go.
Yeah, that's when the Catholics and Protestants came together. What's funny is we had an evangelical Christian, Jimmy Carter, as president. And they're like, well, we don't like him. He can't win. We're going to put it all in with Reagan. But he's been divorced. We'll just overlook it. And then, again, that was a big deal in the 1980, and then, of course, that's the moral majority. And that's where you get...
Politics is such strange mess, boy.
That was the last of the Southern Democrats, the Dixiecrats. They went Republican on religious reasons. And of course, that got introduced.
They got canceled, and then the Dixie Chicks got canceled.
Oh yeah, it's trying to teach this to a 16-year-old. It's nearly impossible. Trying to tell them what it is, what it used to be, what it was before that.
Kid the other day said, you can't. He actually fact checked himself. He goes, you can't cancel dead people. Then he goes, wait a minute. What about all those Southern general statues that are coming down? I was like, yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can. I mean, teaching politics in the last 5-6 years has been insane because, when I always had to say, this is how it used to be, and now I have to say, well, this is how it used to be, this has changed, but this hasn't yet. And so now I'm like walking piecemeal through things. Yeah. I'm like, well, it was like this, and then this president reversed it, and this president probably will, but hasn't yet. And so I don't know, you don't know what to do.
Where are we?
In 2020, the Republican Party refused to have a platform.
Yes, they
did.
Which
was the first time.
That's ever. Bizarre, though.
Because they didn't know exactly what Trump wanted.
Yeah.
And they didn't really know what to say. And so they just didn't have a Republican platform, which is crazy.
Yeah. Well, they were just like, hey, take 2016. It's still good.
Yeah, we're just going to keep on doing what we're doing. And I was like, what are y'all doing?
Maybe.
Keeping America great.
And by the way, I also tell this to the students, like, Trump, the human, and his rhetoric is very separate from the policies side of it.
Sure.
So I'm always trying to make sure they understand that, just look, he's broke a lot of traditions and norms and all that. But it's policy-wise.
Do you think that he'll run again? Because I'm not sure he will.
Yeah, I do.
Why would he, though? I mean, what's the benefit? And he's already proven he can.
I think he'll win. I think he'll win.
I think if it's Joe
But,
Biden, he'll win.
He didn't like being in the job.
Yeah, but now he's a loser. And you know how he talks about losers.
If you don't talk about him like that, though, then he'll forget.
Well,
Maybe. Because he's not a loser when it comes to the control over the party.
that's true.
And so
I
does he wield more power and influence now than he did when he was actually in the office? Because you can still stand on the sidelines and scream, it's not fair.
They're saying they're going to make him Speaker of the House.
I hadn't heard that one. Who said that?
Republicans, it's been floated, and it's in the caucus that if they retake the House in 2022, which it looks like they will, that there's a growing
I assume that's
contingent.
gonna be true.
that-
Oh, no, I had not heard that
yes.
one.
I could see how he would reject that. He would like the nomination, but I can't imagine him accepting the role of Speaker. I think he wants to run again. I mean, especially if it's against Biden. And
Yeah,
look, I can't think of another Republican that
But I
can
don't
come
know.
close.
To me,
DeSantis.
though, he seems more like he would enjoy being puppet master behind the scenes with a little bit of public flair, and actually get because you get DeSantis in there and you could control him. I would assume.
Possibly, yeah.
But I don't think Trump cares about. I think Trump wants to be.
You think it's
The
just about the
show.
accolades?
I think he wants to be the
He
show.
wants to be on the screen. He
you
don't
know,
want to control anybody.
I think he talks so much about nobody can beat me. If they beat me, it's rigged. And so when he did lose, and
Yeah,
when
but
I
you
say
risk losing again.
well, I think he does if it's someone other than Biden. But I think he can beat Biden a second time.
Yeah,
But there's nobody else, right? Is there anybody else?
That's a tougher question.
Well,
there could
listen,
be.
If Joe was really an upstanding person, don't you think it would be in his best interest and everybody else's, if on that side of the line, for him to go, I've had my time. It's time to bow out. Let somebody else step up. We'll leave it in best shape we can. Because if he runs, I just really think it's a loss.
But the only reason he ran and won the last time was he had one job, beat Trump. After that, who cares? And so the Democrats weren't thinking about anything, really. I mean, they knew they were electing a very uninspiring person. If he bows
two
out...
very uninspiring people.
I know, and I don't know what happened to our vice president. She's out of the picture, I guess.
Oh, she has COVID right now.
Well, yeah, she does
So
have
she's
COVID.
out of the picture for a
She's had
moment.
COVID for 6 months now.
I did have a student say
She's not very inspiring, though.
What
when
happened
she
to
speaks.
her? I haven't heard about her until she got COVID. And I said, well, constitutionally, all she has to do is break ties and stay alive. And I didn't mean that in the way they came across.
Right, that's true.
I meant that in that the vice president doesn't have any actual constitutional responsibility. So don't take that
I think
weirdly.
Times came out with
Secret Service. I didn't mean it like that.
Stay alive because Biden might not. Is that where you were going?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like she's supposed to be ready to
What
take
is he?
over.
Almost 80, right?
Yeah, he'll. I don't know the exact age, but it's
I
close.
think if Biden doesn't run, I think it's going to be interesting to see who Bernie, and hopefully he won't run.
No,
he's
he floated that,
considering
didn't
it.
he?
Yeah, he's already.
Oh gosh, because Bernie has a coalition.
Break out those
that
mittens, boy, and just go for it.
He could support somebody, and whether it's Buttigieg or whoever or Warren. I don't know who he.
Who else could step up?
it's
Really?
the same
Okay,
cast of
just assume
characters.
Biden goes. Okay, I'm out. Who else would it be? Because Harris, I don't think is. We
She
talked
was
about this
out of
before.
the-
When when she had her own
Yeah.
presidential run, like
She was
that
out very
bid
early.
ended pretty early.
Yeah, and I don't know whether this is an internal thing or what, but people are right. They haven't seen much of her, and
Is that on purpose too? Because keep a low profile in case I need to run by myself.
it could be. I don't know the motivation behind it, but if Biden is not going to run, he needs to announce it quickly, and they need to get somebody ready.
Yeah.
And they haven't done that because it looks like he's going to run, which, just in my opinion, I wish he wouldn't.
Yeah.
But, who do you have for the Democrats? If they
listen.
don't start now, no one.
To me, I don't care who the Republicans
Hillary
put up there.
Clinton.
I just don't think. Oh God.
That has already been floated. Like, let's not.
How
But
old
seriously,
can we get?
all this stuff with the inflation aspect of it. I mean, it's just ammunition for the other side, and I don't care.
Ukraine stuff.
Jimmy Carter.
The
This will
Ukraine
never
stuff,
happen
yeah,
if the
I've heard
Republicans
people
are in
calling
charge.
Carter.
Now, I always want to say this because we focus because it's fun. We focus on the president because there's somebody to focus
Sure.
on.
Yeah.
We all know that the president is not as all powerful of Oz. He gets too much credit, too much blame for everything. But this is why people focus on the president, because it is kind of fun to it's like a sports thing.
It's political
which is
theater.
kind of
Yeah.
But the real power is in Congress, and we should really pay attention to that.
That's where
the
people
midterm
are,
elections are so crucial, and it looks like and this is crazy to me. It looks like the Democrats have a better chance of keeping the Senate than keeping the House. Wow. That's weird for many reasons, but it flips conventional wisdom. But they look, who's the backbench? I don't know. You've got Harris. I don't know that she can mount a winning run because I don't think she's made a name for herself as vice president. Mm-hmm. And I don't know whether it's they haven't let her, or I don't know if she's intentionally keeping a low profile. Then you look at the cabinet. I mean, Pete Buttigieg, possibly. I don't know.
Are there developments in the former Rust Belt? Because that's what they keep saying. We're bringing it back. We're bringing it back. We're bringing it back. Is there enough support in those areas for a Democratic ticket where it would make a difference? Because I think the South is pretty much Republicans.
Well, I think Ohio is off the table. Okay. I think Ohio is off the table. Biden's underwater in his approval polling in Pennsylvania, which is not good.
That's what I was asking. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't. Yeah.
So I think maybe Gretchen Whitmer, Michigan, has some national name recognition.
The one they were going to kidnap?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that's sad that has national name recognition, but at least she does. Who I always wanted to see run was Jason Kander from Missouri. I don't think he will.
I wouldn't want to run. It takes a special kind of person to go through these hoops to get to be the chosen one.
What about a moderate Republican? Because I know we brought up DeSantis a while ago, which he's not. But I mean, is there anybody out there who might be a serious challenger that's a moderate?
Romney, let's bring him back.
Go again?
I don't think he would go again, but
Rubio, is fairly moderate, depending on the situation.
He is, yeah. I mean, he's your more traditional Republican.
Yeah.
I think where he'll get into trouble trying to run as a moderate would be social issues. Who you're going to see, here's my prediction, but I think the two moderates that are going to try to pave out their way, Kasich again out of Ohio and Asa Hutchinson.
You think so?
Yep.
They're kind of similar in a lot of ways.
Maybe.
Well, let's switch gears. Let's talk about Elon Musk buying Twitter for $45 billion.
When you
I was just like
change,
$1 billion.
pocket change.
Can you
Or
imagine?
$1 million. I'll take $1 million.
I know.
40-something
one.
billion.
Let me just follow you on the street and you drop some money. I'll get it.
Well, okay, so just 2 or 3 days ago, all the board of Twitter was like, no, hell no, we will not.
Poison pill.
Yeah, poison. We will stop this no matter what. And then suddenly they're all like, this is the solution we need. Money talks.
Yeah, they
man.
made a lot of money.
They didn't think I think a lot of them didn't think he had it until he signed and proved that he had it. And then they're like, okay, well, this gets us out of.
Okay, so what does this do for us, if anything?
Well, he said
What
he's
does
going
this do to us, if anything?
He says he's going to take the company private, which is interesting. So no board of directors. Yeah, no board of directors, no ousting, no Steve Jobsing him, kicking him out of his own company. So it's his. Yeah. And, he's someone who keeps saying, I believe in free speech. I believe in free speech. And that makes me think that he's going to pretty much unregulate the platform. And I think you will Truth Social Media? Truth Social. If that fails, I think you will see the former president back on Twitter.
Which actually would probably hurt him. What? The best thing that happened to him was him getting kicked off Twitter. I think that actually has helped Trump.
Yeah, I think
because he's not as. Just imagine all the craziness he'd be saying every day. Of course, who knows? He's going to have his group, right?
Yeah.
It's that people in the middle.
I don't think I buy the whole I'm for free speech. I just don't know that I don't buy it. There's what else could it be? If it's not that, let's just assume for a second it's not that he really doesn't care about free speech. What else could it be?
How profitable is this company?
Twitter wasn't really profitable.
Is it just
it's past
is
its
it a
prime.
conquest thing? Is it like mad scientist kind of thing? Is it because I'm under the impression that he's a Bond villain.
I've always said he and who's the other one? Bezos. Yeah, I'm like, they're evil. I don't know why I have no proof. I'm just
Bezos looks like Lex Luthor and Dr. Evil had a child.
I don't trust it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Twitter's awesome now. I don't think it might get worse.
I mean, there are already people bailing out, though. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
I mean, some people with several million followers. I can't think of names off the top of my head, but I've seen. I was on Twitter last night watching people bounce out. So,
the destructive part of Twitter to me is not so much people spreading disinformation or whatever. It's the bots that do it.
Yeah.
And then it's also the algorithms that elevate the incendiary things.
Yes.
Like if it was a true public square and we all get an equal shout, then free speech doesn't seem that bad to me, But because, it's only going to elevate the craziest stuff, that's what makes it more dangerous to me. I wish we could, if we're going to regulate something, I mean, I guess have it under normal regulations, but regulate the algorithms that do that crazy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the echo chamber it creates is the real danger, and people we already know not only do they live their lives in that echo chamber, that it turns into truth to them.
Yeah.
So no matter how many facts you say or evidence you bring forward, they're going to believe whatever they've been socialized to believe. And that's the real danger America's facing right now. And I don't know how you undo that.
I don't either. And we're living in this reality, not just on Twitter, but YouTube. We have a particular, whatever, just name the platform, it's individualized. And the more you go down a hole on YouTube, the more crazy stuff you see that could indoctrinate you. I don't know. It's this vast information that we have. I really thought the internet would open things up. And actually what it's done is made things narrower.
Yeah.
It puts you down. Once again, the algorithms show you more of what you like. And I get it because they want you to stay on the platform. It's really, I have a whole presentation on how we don't handle information we don't agree with well. Mm-hmm. We gravitate towards information we agree with, which of course that opens up. I mean, that's the challenge, is how do you get people to actually take into account the other side of an argument?
Without getting mad.
Without turning it off and,
It just seems like, I don't know, this is going to just be me sounding very old, I guess, but it seems like it used to be easier that when I was coming up through high school, college, whatever it was, graduate school, that we had those conversations and we had civilized debate, and I just saw an AP seminar presentation similarly about this, that what you were saying reinforces, like you go to even your friend groups now are echo chambers. I had friends that believed completely different than me, and we walked out of the classroom after having argued, I don't know, for about 40 minutes about constitutional law, and we all went out to dinner, and we're friends. And that's like Justice Scalia and Justice Ginsburg were fast friends and great friends, and they are two very different people when it comes to basically any political, economic, or social idea.
Have we gone down this rabbit hole of hate mongering then?
Yeah, that's what I don't understand.
I don't disagree with me, so you're a villain.
Yes, that's
where we're at.
I
think
it
starts on what you said. You were physically in class. You will do things on Twitter that you would never do.
It's true.
If you're looking at somebody in the face. And I think that anonymity has just made things worse because literally people spend so much time on Twitter. It's their reality, but it's not reality.
No.
And I think if people knew each other, that they would agree a lot more. I mean, and people, like if you knew somebody on the opposite side, it makes sense. But we are now in this virtual space and say
the
crazy
whole concept
stuff.
that you need to cancel people to begin with. And I mean, I'm not talking about calling out nonsensical things, but then just say, well, I disagree with you, so therefore you're canceled. Like, that is such BS. I mean, that drives away conversations that could bring more understanding, right?
I think that's what Elon Musk is saying. That's the reason, because he doesn't like
but I just don't know that I trust him.
I don't trust it.
I'm not saying I trust him. I'm saying,
but now maybe I'm doing exactly what I'm criticizing.
Well, I'm not trying to cancel him. I'm just saying I don't trust him. Like, that's fair.
Yeah, Twitter was doing, look, they're a company and they were doing what they wanted to do. And, they were, shadow banning people and
what does an egotistical billionaire want with with that platform. He already is on it. Why do you need it? See what I'm saying? Like, what's the end game? Is it going to make you that much more profit? I don't think so. How much more profit do you need? You're the richest dude on the planet. So I don't.
What
is
does
it,
he
know?
know?
No,
is
it
it
helps.
just another notch on your bedpost? Like, what is it?
It helped the former billionaire that used it the most.
What? No, that guy wasn't a billionaire.
Oh, well, alleged.
I know not of whom you speak.
Yeah, it's crazy. He used Twitter to become president.
Yeah.
Without Twitter, he doesn't become
Yeah, he
president.
doesn't become president.
So is that how we're going to remember that? The Twitter presidency?
Possibly.
I do think it's important. I mean, Obama used Twitter, but very just like
Not to the same. No,
No, not to the same.
Hey, credit where credit's due. Trump
Oh,
is a
yeah.
master of informational.
Yeah.
Just he would leak stuff on himself just so he could have something to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I tell the kids in AP Gov, it's the new bully pulpit, but more emphasis on the former. That's what Twitter was for him. And it moved attitudes. It moved the country.
Can the FCC put some sort of regulations about algorithms, or is that entity so antiquated that it can't perform
Yeah,
those tasks?
it's too. Our laws are too antiquated. We didn't progress as the internet progressed,
Right.
and it's a problem.
Well, I mean, yeah, you have 70-year-old congressmen.
I know who can't.
Alligators. We got trouble with alligators.
Well, the funny thing is trying to watch them. It's painful. I don't know if you've seen it, but when they've got the tech company CEOs up there, and trying to ask them questions, and they obviously don't understand what the platform is or what it does. And it's embarrassing, and it's another reason. And my AP government kids would love that I'm saying this. It's another reason we have to drastically consider taking age into consideration when we elect people.
Yeah.
There are countries that have age limits.
Sure.
Yes, not just age minimums.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Nigeria's Supreme Court requires them to retire at 70.
When we constructed our Constitution, though, people weren't living that long.
Oh, well, yeah.
I
we
mean,
had that
Washington was the old
conversation, too.
man at 65.
Yeah.
Most people died pretty young. Some people, if you were rich, like Ben Franklin, maybe you could hang in there till 81. But
Yeah, but the average person to 35 for president. By that point, you were wise and old, and you lived your life.
Speaking of super agedness, like the Queen of England just turned 96.
Yes.
She still listen. She just had her was it Diamond Jubilee? That's 70 years on throne, longest reigning monarch in British history, longest reigning female in maybe European history. I'm not quite sure about that, but she's still got 2 more years before she can beat the overall monarchy record, which is Louis XIV, and he's got 72 years. Can she make it to 90?
I kind of want her to.
I kind of want her
think
to.
she can.
Yeah, at least tie it, but. The fact that she's got to be 99 to break that record, I
don't know how true this is, but I saw that she's 2 years older than sliced bread.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the machine.
yeah.
The machine, yeah.
The bread.
you know who I feel bad for is Charles. Every time we bring up this
Oh, yeah.
conversation. Because when he was a kid, they're like, one day you're
You're
going to
gonna
be
be
king. And he's 78 and he's still not king. He might be the oldest and shortest reign.
he takes over and keels over at the same
Take the coronation. He kneels and never gets up.
We're not really.
We don't
laughing.
wanna
That's
wish
not-
that
No, we're not.
Sorry, British listeners. That is not. We're not really laughing about that.
I know that the British, anybody that has royalty
they like
still,
him.
it's kind of
Maybe
a
not.
weird thing to still celebrate royalty. Like,
It is
Like
but
Your
you know,
Highness
But
and-
I've noticed that when we're there,
yeah.
that I kind of get caught up in that whole thing.
Oh,
though.
yeah.
I was
No,
like,
that's what it's like reality for them.
You think the Queen's look? Is the flag over the? Is it? No. I mean,
She represents stability, and man, she's been stable for a long.
Traditional legitimacy. I mean, we talk about it in comparative. Like, that is, that's their thing, and she's been at it a long damn time.
How many prime ministers have kissed her ring?
Oh, man.
We need to count it up. I know Churchill did twice.
I bet she's the monarch who has seen the most independencies from their
Yes.
from their empire.
That is probably a fact.
I don't know how many that would be at this point.
There's a
I've looked it
meme.
up one time, and you see all these countries that independent in really early in her reign, and then in the
Well, even some of
70s
them that are
and 80s.
still, they're quote unquote independent, but they're actually still part of the Commonwealth. Like she's still
Yes.
on their
Yes.
money,
Yeah.
Canada,
the-
Australia, New Zealand.
The meme is UK number one. What was it? Number one manufacturer of Independence Days.
I mean, but okay, just real quick, and I don't want to go down this tangent too long, but how globally,
Yeah.
Britain's the size of a thumbprint. How do you, like, you're some great people. I mean, really, let's give credit where credit's due again. You're pretty freaking great to have been able to take that much of the planet and say, we will now control your politics and your economics and your resources and your people, and we're going to try to make you be like us. Like, that's a win on so many levels. I don't care how people feel about that, but just from that standpoint, like what historically speaking, that's improbable. That an island nation that far north that's been that isolated for most of its history comes out and becomes a global power. I mean,
And they still have an outsized influence relative to their size.
right? Yeah,
So
right.
yeah, it's
Like
amazing.
It's brilliant.
They gotta step up a lip.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. If you think about the Vikings that moved in early on, that gave them some tenacity, I
Hey,
think.
every group that's lived there is badasses. The Celts, right? Anglo-Saxons, the
Saxons,
Vikings,
Romans.
the Normans, the Romans. Everybody who's
True.
come through has just been on their game, So bravo.
And then William the Conqueror comes in.
Yeah.
And he was too. And of course, he descends from Vikings. William the Conqueror is a direct descendant from Rollo, a true Viking of the 900s.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
that's the
it's
whole reason that the place called Normandy to begin with.
Yeah.
The Norsemen had settled there.
Norsemen, yeah. And they, and they've done pretty well. It's funny because that argument, it's funny that an island ruled so much. That was an argument our founding fathers used for why we should be independent. This island shouldn't take over a continent. And you would think, and we actually somehow won, and you would think England would go downhill, but nope, they got
They kept
stronger and
going.
stronger and stronger.
I would love to know how they. Didn't we ask? I can't remember. Didn't we ask one of our tour guides there once before about how they felt about that? And they're like, "Yeah, it was kind of a blip. we went on our way without you."
Oh yeah, y'all focus on it way too much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You'd
it
have-
was.
Actually, I think they look at it like we would have been stronger if we had stayed with them.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a perspective. I'd have to verify that, but I
Well,
think
the
that's
Civil
probably
War
true.
we had nearly proved them correct. We
yeah.
nearly fell apart.
Nearly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we did. Well, hey, you know what? Jury's still out. All right, well, let's end it with senior pranks. You want to end it with senior pranks?
Yeah, this is senior week here at the school.
What was the senior prank today?
cards.
So they bought 10,000 business cards that all said you can't get rid of us that easily, and they've been hiding them all over this campus all day, and that's kind of brilliant also because we will actually be finding these for years to come.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
That's a pretty good one. It's a long range prank goal, which I really have some respect for. It's real subtle. And yet, years from now, when I retire, I'll be like taking stuff off the wall going, God, there it is.
That's not bad. We had I remember one when I was a teacher, they blew up
When you were a
1,000
teacher?
balloons. Yeah, well, I'm still a teacher. I think I was at Bismarck. There was two
He
at
just
Bismarck.
announced something.
I know. Sorry, I haven't let y'all know yet. My
Dear
letter of-
admin.
when I was a teacher, this senior card trick is it. It's the final straw. No, when I was at Bismarck, I remember two. One of them was balloons, which just was annoying.
Water balloons or like
I think they actually broke in the school at night and blew up a bunch of balloons, and then I think they might have got arrested for breaking in the school at night. So that because we had cameras, right? And then another one that was actually kind of funny was they found some Christmas decorations. And I just remember arriving at school, and there was like a full sleigh, reindeer on the top of the school. And so they had a full Christmas thing on top of the school. And I thought, well, that's not too bad.
that's pretty good. That's
kinda
pretty
good.
good.
That's the only two I can remember.
Several years ago here, speaking of breaking into the building, they had gone to the local Petco and bought every goldfish that business had and came into the school and put them in every sink and in every toilet. And PETA people got mad, I'm sure, but still, I mean, it was. I don't know what happened to the fish. I'm not privy to that information. I'm assuming they all went to the ocean, but I don't know that. So that was an interesting one. What was another one I saw? I don't remember.
Did you have one in high school?
We didn't have one.
We didn't really do pranks, but we did like we had a senior week thing where we just kind of ran around and was kind of goofy, dressed up or whatever. I remember we had this. We all brought when you could bring. Weapon-like things to school and not get in trouble. We all brought super soakers and water pistols and water balloons, and we had this big-ass water gun fight out in the front of the school before we left. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, we just didn't. No, we didn't. Not that I remember. We had senior weeks and things like that, themes and dress up, but pranks, no, I don't remember any.
A guy that I used to work with said that his dad had a construction company, and they had a crane on the back of a truck, and they brought it to school and strapped up the principal's car and like lifted it 30 feet in the air and just left it hanging there all day.
I heard that story somewhere today. Who's saying it?
I think I've told a couple people that. But,
No, it was a kid telling me.
No, man, I told a kid that.
Oh, well, they're telling, they're retelling.
Yeah, I've been telling people that because they were talking about the pranks. I was like, yeah, I've heard. That was one that I didn't see that one, so I don't know if it's true, but that's what he told me.
Well, at the first of the week, all the seniors parked close to make everybody walk.
Well, yeah, they
something.
took up parking
took up
spots.
sideways
So
or something,
sideways
yeah.
parked.
So they got permission to do this.
Yeah.
And then after a few periods, you're like, all right,
Stop that.
move your car.
So stop doing that. I mean, okay, so part of the reason why they have to get their approval for their pranks is because several years ago, like we had people doing, Goldfish pranks and break into the building, but just some stupid and dangerous things that really needed to be capped on. And I want to say this is a couple years before COVID. Like the admin basically said, look, if we're going to cancel seniors we're going to cancel senior week, not seniors. What am I saying? You can't do anything because you can't handle the responsibility of doing this safely. And so now it's all you can do it, but it's going to be low key and have to be pre-approved.
Yeah, I think the cards is not a bad one because we'll be finding those everywhere.
I think it's pretty creative.
Remember us. Yeah, I haven't even looked at them, but I had a senior come in my room, climb up on a desk, and was looking at me at the eyes and the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
And he was just like, "There's nothing to see here." And he puts it up in the ceiling.
Oh, I have them in my vents. I have them. They just the same thing.
Probably in my pockets. What is?
Oh yeah, they were putting them in hoods, like people's hoodies, like without them knowing, and saying they'd been tagged.
Some of them delegated. They like got some of the underclassmen.
Oh yeah,
to
that
start doing it,
underclassmen
too.
were
Anyway. So that's a nice way to kind of go out. A little pranky here and there. It's going to last for years. Good job.
All right. Well, hey, that wraps up another episode, and possibly
Pray for Ukraine and Moldova.
Yes.
the season. This could be the last podcast for the season. We don't know.
I thought he was going to say ever. I was bracing.
Signing off.
I'm no longer teaching, and I've got to. Yeah, we got to have a serious conversation after this. No, I'm still going to teach, and this could be the last episode for the season, but it might not be. See you next time.